Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sunday night live stream for Sunday, May 15th. Let me change that, shall we? How's everybody doing out there in the world? If you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter, throw out your comments or questions. I'm very happy to respond to them. That's just kind of a funny thing. I was walking along the road today and I saw that in the ditch and I thought, how Wisconsin. So anyways, I'll take it down. Silly little Wisconsin nobilia there for you. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Lots of good things going on right now. Our own, I'm going to get her name wrong. Kira Cheney, I believe, was featured today on the Sunday morning CBS News show. Wasn't a great piece, but it wasn't bad, about student loan debt, obviously. I appreciate Kira and everybody else who stepped up to be interviewed for that piece. I'm hopeful that CBS News / quite frankly, I think 60 Minutes probably should at some point soon do a deep dive on the predatory underbelly of this nationally threatening and now catastrophically failed lending beast. But hey, that's a marathon, not a sprint. That was a strong single or a double today we got there with CBS. We were featured on Fox News about a month ago. We were featured on a very conservative publication called the Epoch Times, EPOCH Times, last week. Many other things cooking, so that's good. And by the way, if you have a compelling story to tell, send it to us. You can email me at alan@studentloanjustice.org. We're getting a lot of media requests right now, ladies and gentlemen. That's a really good thing. Because if you haven't noticed, the media is out to get us. I posted a collage of recent headlines, and all of them were like, student loan cancellation is the biggest taxpayer con in U.S. history, said the Wall Street Journal. New York Times said something terrible, although the other day New York Times said something nice. But the pro-borrower, pro-cancellation, pro-bankruptcy pieces are outnumbered by a factor of like 10, if not 15 or 20 to 1 right now. If you haven't noticed, ladies and gentlemen, and I digress a little bit here, but this is kind of a class war. And the last time I checked, the lower class didn't control any newspapers. And how true that is now here today, now that the student loan swamp is freaking out. They're losing their poise, let's just say. They are worried. They are very worried. They are not going to go down without a fight. This lending system is going away, make no mistake. But they are not going to go down without a fight. So, and as I said, if you have any questions or comments, throw them out. If I can see them, I will respond to them. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk. The topic for today, very simply, is what should replace this catastrophically failed lending catastrophe. Yes, I meant to use that word twice, by the way. It is a catastrophic catastrophe. And if you don't believe me, go to bit.ly/student loans failed, all one word, lowercase, bit.ly/student loans failed, and read it. It's a short article, and the 4 bullet points in it should provide you proof beyond any shadow of a doubt that yes, indeed, this lending system is finished. It's toast. It's done. It's a dead man walking. We are seeing the unfortunate death throes of the federal, certainly, student loan program. Maybe private loans as well, although that remains to be seen. And to that end, I went a little out of my way. Was it yesterday, the day before? I threw up a tweet. We do Twitter, guys. By the way, follow us on Twitter, Student Loan Just #1. I did a tweet the other day saying what I think is very obvious. I've said it a few times in the past. I haven't really said it publicly much. But what I said was the president should immediately suspend the federal student loan program through the end of next year, so through 2024. And he should use that time to reinvent, recreate, create from scratch a new higher education funding model. And in the interim, he should directly fund the colleges and universities, albeit at a reduced rate, because quite frankly, the colleges are doing very well. They could stand to, they would do fine if they only had 80% of the revenue they normally get from the federal student loan program. So that was my recommendation, and truly, it should happen. So in seeing all of the haters that attack us all the time, they've got nothing. Number one, student loan cancellation will not benefit the wealthy. It will not cause inflation. All the nonsense they're throwing up is bogus, and they know it. But there is one very, I would say, valid point that I have seen made rarely, but it has been made, and it's a very good point. And the point is this. Okay, so if we cancel loans, then what? Like, what, we just keep making the loans and the same shit happens in 10 or 15 years or whatever? What's going on? I think that's a very valid question. Now, frankly, I don't think that we even have to answer that question. Our whole goal is to get bankruptcy returned to the loans and get all federally owned student loans canceled. So beyond that, honestly, we're pretty agnostic. But nonetheless, I think it's a pretty good question. And I'd like to kick that around tonight. You know, I've got my own ideas. As a group, we're agnostic. So I'm frankly open to any and all proposed solutions, and I think it's worth kicking around. So just to start the conversation off here, I want to maybe throw out a few of my own thoughts. So what should replace the federal student loan system, right? This one was obviously a failure. Less than half of everybody was paying before the pandemic even, and almost nobody will ever pay again. What should we replace this train wreck with? And here's a couple of things I'm just going to throw out there, and you can consider them for yourself. So probably the easiest thing to do would be, yes, keep making loans, keep all the nonsense in place, keep all the bullshit going. However, all loans going forward must have the same bankruptcy protections that every other loan has, must have statutes of limitations according to each state, maybe, and I'm open to that. But they should have all the same consumer protections that every other lending instrument has everywhere. Most importantly, bankruptcy. Now, beyond that, my own thought is that, you know, the president in 1965, LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, he declared that the loans would be free of interest when he signed the Higher Education Act into law in 1965. So what happened there? Why is the government making a profit in interest on these loans? That makes no sense. So going forward, probably the easiest solution would be, yeah, okay, keep doing loans, but the loans must have at least bankruptcy protections, if not the other consumer protections. Also be free of interest, or like maybe at most like the federal funds rate or something, like the 10-year T-bill rate, which is like 0.5% right now or whatever it is. So that's one potential replacement for the federal student loan program. But there are other ideas out there as well. Maybe at the other extreme, well, I guess the most extreme thing would just be to end the lending program, period, and get the federal government out of the business of funding higher education in this country. So no more student loan program. And yeah, I'm sure they'd still do the NSF grants and the other grants that they do. Yeah, that's a possibility. I think a whole ton of colleges would have to close their doors. I think probably up to half of the colleges in this country would probably be shuttered as a result. I'm not so sure that that's a great solution, but it is a potential solution. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. At the other extreme, maybe we should, instead of throwing $100 billion out in loans. Just give $100 billion to the colleges, as we were doing now, no discount, fully fund, the colleges with no loans, and do it that way. Again, I think that's another on the extreme. I kind of don't think that would work out too well. I think it would be really expensive. I think the colleges would probably get pretty lazy about that. I think they're already getting too much money from the federal student loan program in the first place. It sounds expensive to me. I don't know. Maybe it would work. I don't know. Maybe some hybrid where we only fund community colleges and state schools, vocational state community college, maybe government chartered schools. That's another possibility. I'm curious to hear your thoughts there. And still, again, there's literally a universe of potential solutions here. And this is why I generally stay out of this whole conversation, because you can debate what the next higher education funding model should be forever. And what we have seen in the past is that this debate only serves to prolong the current model that's in place, which is disastrous and nationally threatening, and now, thank goodness, catastrophically failed. But here we are. So, so I have mentioned three solutions. Another potential solution is look at what some of the other countries do. There are some pretty interesting funding models, like, for example, in the country of Australia, for example, if you use the public subsidy to fund your college, you are automatically locked into a monolithic repayment plan where if you earn over a certain amount, you must pay a certain percentage of your income, I think in taxes, to the Australian Tax Commission or Tax Board, or however they do that in Australia. And I think you only do it for a set amount of time. And after that, I think it's 10 years or maybe 15 years in Australia. Once you're done, and that's it. And I have heard that works well. But maybe you have your own thoughts there. Let's see here. Speaking of comments, I see we have quite a few. Denise Perot is with us tonight. Let's see here. How are you, Denise? Hey, Vanjian Roo says, there's a guy, Ed Analyst, that sometimes comments re his data. The one thing I agree with him on is getting rid of capitalizing interest. You must be aware of him. Yeah, I think I've seen the guy around. I don't have a whole lot of respect for anybody calling themselves an ED analyst, I should say. Most of the higher education analysts out there are completely in the tank with the lending system. I have found, Vanji. And even the few good ones that I know of, like Mark Kantrowitz, for example, him and I go back a long ways. He's an honest guy, encyclopedic knowledge, knows far more than I do, certainly about the student loan program, even the minutia. And even he puts his thumbs on the scale, on the side of the lenders rather than the borrowers. You know, anybody calling themselves an ED analyst is getting a paycheck from somewhere. And I guarantee you that paycheck does not come from poor people. And so that kind of tells the tale right there. Hey, Denise Perot says, this is the current least of my worries, dealing with physician assistant, didn't add notes, other personal problems that Denise describes. She could care less what the next higher education funding model is. And Denise, I salute you, I applaud, and that's exactly why this live stream tonight is a very rare one, because we don't care. Honestly, that's the next problem. The 800-pound gorilla that's breathing down our neck right now is the loan portfolio that currently threatens 43.2 million people, 36 or 7 million of whom, like you and me, Denise, were losing sleep over our student loans even before the pandemic. So frankly, I don't care. This is a fun conversation to have because in a way, we don't really have a dog in this fight. But nonetheless, you know, the bad guys have a valid point when they say, okay, if we cancel student loans, what are we going to replace it with? Well, I've given you just 4 options. And I don't even think I've really scratched the surface. You know, there's other people out there who think that we should do these things called income share agreements, ISAs. I like to call them indentured servitude agreements, because that's essentially what they are. So when you look at people and organizations like the Jane Institute, for example, be very wary. So the idea of an indentured service agreement, an ISA, is that you promise to work for somebody or pay a percentage of your income to somebody, maybe an employer, maybe not, work for them for 10 years, and employers is the service agreement. But it could be a private investor as well, the way they're trying to define that term these days. Obligates you to tithe a certain percentage of your income to them for a certain amount of time. And that sounds good on paper. But I'm here to tell you, those suckers are dangerous, because I have seen legislation aimed at creating a legal framework for these so-called ISAs, these human capital contracts. And I can tell you guys, they go out of their way to make sure that bankruptcy remains gone from this debt. And it is a debt. And it's considered to be an educational loan if the legislation, the proposed legislation that I have seen were to make it into law. So I'm not a big fan of those, but maybe you have your own thoughts. Hey, Tara Rose with us tonight. How you doing, Tara? Tara says, if Biden were to forgive, say, $10,000, what is the timeline you would predict it to happen? My timeline, and I think I'm right here, is that whatever Biden proposes, he'll do it right before early voting begins, right before November elections. And he'll go, yeah, we're going to do this. Boom. Maybe he'll say 10,000. Maybe he'll say, oh, I'm splitting the difference with Elizabeth Warren, up to $25,000. Or maybe he'll even go all the way and say up to $50,000. And the band will cheer, and the parade will march, and the balloons will fall from the ceiling, and the champagne will flow. And by the way, vote for us, the Democrats. But not a damn thing is going to happen until after the election. And then after the election, all of a sudden it's going to be like, oh, yeah, I said up to, right? So up to could mean anything. And if the Department of Education has its way, as long as the threat of bankruptcy remains gone from these loans, and that is the key point. That's the most important thing I'm going to say tonight, Tara. As long as we don't have at least the threat of bankruptcy back on our side, that $10,000 after means testing, after some kind of messed up application process, after all kinds of bureaucratic tricks, even if it's up to $50,000, it will come to mean almost nothing for almost everyone. It'll be like, yeah, we set up to 50,000, but you get $3,000, you get 10 grand. You get nothing because you're in default. You get nothing because you earn too much. You get nothing because you didn't fill out your form correctly. That's how that's going to roll, Tara. So no matter what Biden does before the election, as long as the threat of bankruptcy is gone, and I hope it's not. And I'll talk about that in a minute. I hope it's not. But if it is not trustworthy. It's not trustworthy. It's a trick. It is a trick. And believe me, guys, we've seen over the 17-year history of our organization, we've seen this very same trick played many times. We're not buying it. Neither should you. And don't believe all the nonsense you read in any of the newspapers, guys. It's 95, if not 98% bullshit. Pardon my French. As I said, this is kind of a class war, guys. And I don't like to say strong, profound things like that, but it kind of is. And the lower class do not control any newspapers, ladies and gentlemen. The revolution will not be televised, as they say. Now, we're surprised. We were pleasantly surprised from time to time. We ourselves have done some good, strong interviews in the recent past. Fox News, News Nation, and this Epoch Times. And we've been quoted at The Guardian and many other places. We've been kicking ass in the media, actually, believe it or not. But nonetheless, all the stuff that we've been in, there has been, for every piece that we've done, there have probably been 50 pieces lodged against us. And these headlines are manufactured, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake. This is our opposition. This is the student loan swamp, the student loan mafia, the Washington elites and their friends that are just throwing this unstoppable, this, what's the word? Relentless barrage of nonsense against us. And by the way, canceling student loans will not benefit the wealthy. Canceling student loans will largely benefit the bottom 80% of earners. And by the way, wealthy people don't even get student loans. And most of the higher earning borrowers among us, they're older people. They're people in their 50s or 60s who, yeah, they earn more, but their lives have been destroyed by these loans over many years and decades. So the highest earning student loan borrowers are generally not your rich doctor, your doctor, lawyer, fresh out of college. It's probably somebody in their 50s and 60s who are trying to, at this point, save for retirement. And do they make more than 100 grand a year? Well, yeah. But like, look at Vanjie, for example. She originally borrowed $26,000. Vanjie has paid back $100,000 on this $26,000 loan. I kid you not. And Vanjie still owes $132 effing $1,000. Think about that. Those are the kind of numbers that we're looking at, particularly for older people in their 50s, 60s, and beyond who have been living under this viciously predatory, unconstitutional, inexcusable lending scam for years. They, before anybody else, should have their loans canceled. I don't like to split the crowd. Everybody, all the loans must be canceled. The lending system is done. 80% weren't paying, or sorry, 64%, 2/3 weren't paying before the pandemic. 80% were underwater before the pandemic. 70 or 75% were going to default on their loans before the pandemic. It is best to just wipe all the loans out, cancel everything, be done with this failed lending scam. Sorry to go on there. Tara, I don't even want to hazard a guess. If I had to guess, I would say Biden will probably go, yep, I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to do up to $25,000. But it doesn't matter what he says, Tara. It's going to be nonsense. Don't believe the bullshit. Don't be a chump. Just don't be a fool for that nonsense. I'm not calling you a fool, Tara, but I know they're trying to fool us, guys. They are absolutely trying to fool us. And I've seen so many people fall for it again and again and again. They want to trust their government. They want to trust the politicians. I get it. We're desperate. We're vulnerable. We will grasp at any straw, any port in a storm, as they say. And so I get that, but guys, just don't be stupid. Don't let yourself be fooled by the foolish propaganda being railed against us right now. Hey, Denise Pro says, I've already tweeted to Secretary Cardona and POTUS to change how they calculate. The interest rate should be zero, guys. The interest rate should be zero. It's what the president in 1965 declared they would be. It's what it should be going forward if there is going to be any federal student loan system going forward. So I think I've thrown out 4 or 5 solutions here. There was one other solution that I haven't talked about. And personally, I think this is very interesting. Instead of throwing $100 billion a year out in federal loans to individual students every year, why not just give that money to the state governments and wash your hands of it and say, here, how many students you got? You got this many students? Okay, boom, there you go. And prorate it, maybe discount it instead of 100 billion, make it 80 billion. So 80% of last year's funding, that kind of thing. And just let the states worry about it completely. Honestly, and I have no confidence in state governments, but I think in general, it's better when a government that is administering a program is closer to the people they serve. Like, if your state legislator is screwing you around, you can go to his house and knock on his door, and people do that. And so being a little closer to the seat of power, I think, is generally a good thing. And quite frankly, politically, I think it's a really sexy idea, because what governor wouldn't want the federal government to just give them that money and let them dole it out as they see fit? They would love that. They may screw it up. They probably would. Quite frankly, but whatever, I don't think the federal government has done a very good job at funding higher education in this country, guys. I don't think they have. I don't think it's a good thing that the federal government, the people in Washington, D.C., are trying to tell some little community college in Tallahassee, Florida, that they are dealing directly with their students on an individual level. I think that's weird. I think it's weird, guys. It's weird, in my opinion. But as I said, I am open to what anybody else says. Hey, Amina's here with us tonight. Hey, Amina. Amina says, Alan Collins, you rock. Have time for another Twitter space tonight after your live stream to answer questions. Yeah, probably, Amina. I'm actually probably going to wrap this one up here in the next 5 or 10 minutes. So just let me know, and if I can jump on, I'm very happy to. We're doing lots of live streams and live spaces and Twitter spaces and stuff like that, guys. If you want to become involved, and we need you to, these are your loans. This is your problem. We will never solve this problem until you get off your ass. That's always been true. And I say that in the most friendly way possible. If you want to help, there's a couple things you can do right now. Number one, go to our website, studentloanjustice.org. There he's right there. And do at least a week, if not a month's worth of the daily actions. And you can see in those daily actions, we have a special project going on right now. It's all Twitter stuff, right? Twitter, I hate Twitter kind of, but Twitter's pretty effective. And I kind of wish that we had started doing Twitter less than a year ago, or more than a year ago, because it's pretty effective. If you want to reach out and touch somebody, you can do that. And if you're smart about it, there's a good chance that they will read what you say. So do that. Go to our website, studentloanjustice.org. Another good thing, another good starting point, which will take you good places to becoming a student loan justice warrior, is go to our petition, change.org/cancel student loans. Obviously, sign the petition if you haven't already, and do those steps. We put like 5 or 6 action steps that you can take, and they are very effective. They're very efficient uses of your time. So I've said it before, there's 2 things we're fighting for right now. One is the return of bankruptcy protections to all student loans. And that lies at the core of everything. We're not going to get loans canceled unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy back. Again, you may not see why that's true, but it's true. And go to our Medium platform, studentloanjustice.medium.com, and read our first 5, 6, 7, 8 articles, and you will understand exactly why that's true. And not only that, if you read those first 5, 6, 7, 8 articles, you will understand very well about this problem, and you will be a very effective student loan justice warrior, not only for yourself, but for 44 of the 45 million people in the country with student loans, and for the hundreds of millions of people who are going to follow in our footsteps. We need you. So bankruptcy, S2598 is the most important thing we have going. The bill is in a very great place right now. It could be passed in the next week, theoretically. It must pass by the end of this year. Of that, there is no doubt. So number 1, bankruptcy. Number 2, we are the group that started the petition in March 2020 calling for the president to cancel all federally owned student loans by executive order. The president can do this without needing congressional approval, without needing congressional appropriation, without needing a dime from the Treasury, without adding even a penny to the national debt. We started this thing in March 2020 before almost anyone was talking about student loan cancellation by executive order. We're glad it took off. We've got over I think we've got nearly 1.1 or 2. We've got over 1.1 million signatures on it now, which gives us theoretically a huge army worth of muscle to flex. But that is only meaningful when you help us flex it. So go to our petition, sign it. Do those 5 things or 6 things that are mentioned. Cool. Oh, thank you for that, Amina. I like that. And yeah, by the way, check with Amina if you want to jump onto that Twitter space. I'll be happy to do it. I see quite a few more comments here tonight. Let me see if I can get to them. I need a better laptop. Oh, by the way, please support our artists. We've got Heather in Paris and Vanessa and many other people are kicking ass right now. We've got an art stash, a GIF stash. So if you go to giphy.com/student loan justice, all one word, you can see our meme stash or GIF stash, or whatever you want to call it. Giphy.com/student loan justice. Check it out. We need to support our artists, ladies and gentlemen. You know, we can, this is a very, if this group we have, Student Loan Justice, if it was a band, we would be the Grateful Dead. It's like as grassroots as you can possibly get. But having said that, we can't do what we do for absolute free, right? Like everybody, we need your financial support, at least limited. Our operating budget is just negligibly small compared to anything. But having said that, support our artists, guys. They're normal people just like you are, and they are busting ass, and they are doing some just groundbreaking art for us. So, and Heather, she's a cancer survivor, a mother living abroad in a foreign country. She's a busy person, but yet she finds time in her schedule to do some just magnificent art, put together some great art. It has done wonders for us. And I'm asking you, please support her. This is a personal donation to Heather, a personal gift at the PayPal MEH Taylor Foster. So please do that. Surprise her. You know I do this every couple months or so for Heather, and I'm suspecting that she might get in like a, $100 or something like that, 80, 90, $100. Please surprise her. She's been doing a lot of work here, and, art can change the world, guys. So please support our artists. Hey, Terry Dodd says, hey, Alan and everyone, any updates on S2598? That's a great question, Terry. No, unfortunately, I don't have an update for you. I did speak with the Senate early last week. And unfortunately, there's nothing that I can tell you right now about the bill, but there's nothing bad that I can tell you about the bill. There's nothing good, but there's nothing bad that I can say about the bill. And that in itself is pretty good. So what I can tell you, and I'm sorry, as soon as I can tell you stuff, I will certainly do that. What I can tell you is that this stuff does not happen in a vacuum. What we do matters. We would not have a bankruptcy bill to fight for, but for this group, guys. We would not be talking about student loan cancellation by executive order, but for this group. I kid you not. It's true. So what we do matters. We are the pioneers on this group, ladies and gentlemen, and you can't unhear that. We've got to punch a little higher than our weight, punch above our weight, or whatever that boxing metaphor is. We've got to pull a little more than our fair share. So do all that stuff I said. Go to Student Loan Justice and do the daily actions. Start there. Go to our change.org/cancel student loans and just do the stupid things. What else were you going to do? These are your loans, and this is your problem. And we're kicking ass right now. And that's with maybe a couple thousand people doing stuff every day. Maybe not even that many, honestly. That's pretty terrible for having over 1 million people in our group. So get off your ass and help. Sitting there and waiting, watching, worrying, and wagging. We're not here for your entertainment. You're not better than us. You need to be getting off your ass and helping us, like Terry is, and both Terrys, and Denise, and Leslie, and everybody I see on the live stream tonight. These people are doing the work, and it's not that hard. Like Doug, especially. And Doug has a comment. Heather's gifts are incredible, and aren't they? Check out Giphy.com/student loan justice and decide for yourself if our art is not kick ass or not. And it's not just Heather; it's a bunch of people. It's a bunch of people contributing. Vanjie, I know others. Vanessa. And many others. If I can't get to all your comments tonight, guys, let me just apologize in advance. Hey, Terry Aller says, have you seen an uptick in positive support from our tweets? It kind of depends on the tweet, Terry. Like one thing we're doing right now, is we're doing a special project. So if you go to our website, look at our daily actions and look at any of the past like 5 daily actions, you will see our special project. It's like a meme. It's like a tweet grab bag where we're asking everybody to randomly retweet like 5 or 10 of those. When everybody does that, it will be a tidal wave worth of power for us. We could blow up every Twitter account that matters on the student loan issue when everybody does that stupid special project. And it's not stupid, but it seems stupid because it's easy. It's an easy special project, and it has nuclear strength when everybody does it. That's the most important thing. What are you doing? Get off your ass and help us. How many times can I say that? All right. I say that in a nice way, but I'm serious. Come on. This battle is not going to win itself. And you're not special. You're not better than us. Amina also makes a good point. Make sure when you do your tweets, try to tag some important hashtags with there. In particular, cancel all student debt. I would say cancel student debt, cancel student loans. I guess cancel all student debt. Amina says that's good. Maybe most importantly, hashtag S2598, hashtag HR 4907. Those are the 2 bills that will return bankruptcy protections to both federal S2598 and private HR 4907 student loans. Quite a few people out there with private loans, by the way. So I don't mention HR 4907 nearly enough, but I should. And Denise also has some good Twitter accounts for you to tweet to House Democrats. In general, and put it in your bio. Yeah, good point. So in general, I think I've said enough tonight, guys. We've covered a lot of ground. I think I'm going to call it a night because I don't want to go on too long. But in general, just remember, guys, what you do matters. Do our daily actions. Do a month worth of our daily actions if you haven't already. Do that special project. And quite frankly, could you not retweet a few more than 5 or 10? If you can do 5 or 10, can you not do 30 or 40? It doesn't take much of your time. And these are exceptionally relevant tweets. They are as or more significant relevant today than the day that we tweeted them. And it's fun. It's like a box of chocolates. So have fun with it. Okay, I'm going to check our Twitter feed for comments now. If you're watching us on Twitter and you commented, I am sorry in advance. But I have to cut it off for now, guys. I'm sorry, but I will try to respond to all the comments after the fact. This is it, guys. This is it. We've never been closer in the 17-year organization of our group. We've never been closer. We're knocking on the door. We've got to get through this last stretch. Don't worry. Don't be distracted. Don't be discouraged by what all the newspapers might say. They're fake. We got this. We control the lending system at the end of the day. And the lending system, no matter what the newspapers might say, spin, whatever they do, nothing can change that fact. The lending system has failed. Again, bit.ly/student loans failed. Those are the facts. Arm yourself with the facts. And keep us posted as to your real progress. We want to see real progress from anybody. Can get a governor to stand up and say, Mr. President, cancel these loans. Anybody can get a Republican attorney general to stand up and say, Mr. President, cancel these loans. Could be you. You have no idea how important you are. Thanks for all the compliments, guys. I will be back tomorrow night. Let's make this week count. We're on your side. We're fighting for you. You got to fight for us. That's how that works. So good luck, everyone. Good luck. Godspeed. I'll see you tomorrow. And God bless. And please donate to our artists.